Hi everyone, Christine Abrams here at Christine's Craft Table, coming to you to celebrate once again National Crochet Month and the challenge put forth by Olga, the crocheting sailor. And today we are covering day 20 and 21 because I missed day 20. First, I'd like to welcome a few new subscribers. My channel has been growing a lot lately, and I thank you all for that. I want to welcome Angela Branham, who came over from Amanda, the Tat Mama. Thank you so much. Cynthia's Joyful Creations, Distinctly Handcrafted, and Betty Claggett. Welcome, and welcome to all of those who I don't know your names. You are equally welcome, and I'm so happy you found my channel. Okay. National Crochet Month, Day 20. What is the topic? It is cozy. There are two things I thought of when I saw the word cozy, and so that's what I'm going to share. The first thing I want to share is my probably one and only forever, or maybe for a long, long time, chenille blanket, which I crocheted all by myself. Give you a quick look. And I'll show you some better pictures at the end. There's the border. This is the definition of cozy. Chenille blankets, yes. Now, if I could have somebody else to crochet them for me, that would be perfect. Because I had never worked with chenille before, and I was the bright person who chose black as one of my colors. But let me back up a little bit. So, obviously, those of you who've worked with chenille knows that chenille is not a friend of crochet, especially dark colors. It is so difficult to see your stitches. It is almost impossible. You're going by feel, and thankfully I found a wonderful pattern to use because I probably would have given up if I didn't have the right pattern. First of all, I found the yarn at Hobby Lobby, 75% off. Who could resist that, right? So Hobby Lobby got me with Lion Brand's Let's Get Cozy Chenille Appeal. 75% off, $1.74 a skein. Who's gonna pass that up? And the colors are beautiful. It was this onyx, they call it, Stormfront, and I ran out of the coconut milk, but that is the lighter color. So that's what got me to buy the chenille in the first place. And I wanted to make a nice size throw with it because I knew it would be, you know, just soft as can be. But I didn't quite get there. This is 51 inches by 55. So a little bit on the small size for a throw. But I'm short and I kept it for me, so it's perfect. Now the pattern was by Hooked by Robin. And like I said, I'm very grateful for it. It's called Easiest Crochet Chenille Blanket. I used a 6.5 millimeter hook for the starting chain to make it nice and roomy. And then I switched to a 5 3/4 millimeter hook for the rest of it. I used 2,123 yards, which was just almost 7 skeins. And she has a YouTube tutorial, which was very good. Instead of her border, though, she did something called the camel stitch, which I wasn't familiar with, but I wanted as easy as I could find. So I just did a single crochet, and then a half double crochet, and then a single crochet around the posts of the half double crochets, and that was my border. And she also has the written pattern available on her website. And I will put links to all of that in the information box. Anyway, this screams cozy to me, and I use it a lot. I'm very thankful for it, but I don't know when I will make another chenille blanket, to be totally honest. And the other thing that I thought of when I saw the word cozy was soup bowl cozies. I have shown these before. The first one is a BagODay pattern. Cute with little picot tips on it. It's a very cute pattern, very easy. There's the bottom. My only mistake with this was using I Love This Cotton from Hobby Lobby. That cotton is a nice and soft cotton. It's great for wearables probably, but not so much for a sturdy bowl cozy. And I had almost given up on these. However, I recently discovered that I have these nice roomy glass containers that I use for leftover soup. And I can just stretch this cozy around this rectangle perfectly. And you know, it goes from the fridge right into the microwave, so it gets very hot. And that is a perfect fit. So these are saved, and it wasn't a loss after all. Oh, by the way, her pattern is called Quick and Easy Beginner Crochet Bowl Cozy Tutorial. And I will put a link also in the description box for that. I used 195 yards for a set of 2. And yeah, very happy that I found a use for those because they're really cute. I also found another pattern which I made. This one is a little bit more straightforward, but it's got a nice little brim on it. It's the reverse single crochet, which I had not done before. Looks like a little rope along the edges. This has gotten a lot of wear, so it might look a little faded. This one is by the Crochet Architect, and very sturdy because I think I used either Lily Sugar and Cream or Walmart Peaches and Cream. I buy a lot of both of those, and I don't remember which one it was. But that thing stands on its own, right? So here's the little bowl, just fine. Just sits right in there. And here's something probably holds twice as much, and that fits as well. You're gonna be careful when you pull it out of the microwave, but it works for me. I even use them with Dixie paper bowls. And that pattern is called number 38 Easy Crochet Microwave Bowl Cozy. For this one, I used about 95 yards for one, and it's also 100% cotton. You always want to use 100% cotton for anything you're going to put in the microwave, because acrylic will not do good things in your microwave. Worsted weight and a 5mm hook. And the pattern is on her website, and I will link that as well. And that's it for cozy. Day 21, finished make. You have probably seen just about everything that I have in my possession that I have finished, but I found 2 things that I finished recently that I was saving for this reason and I had forgotten about. So the first one is this beautiful scarf. And here we go. Isn't that gorgeous? I don't say so myself. This is a pattern by Olga Polatava. I did a video on her for my Meet the Maker segment for this challenge on day 1, if you want to check that out. Her pattern is called Bulky Lace Scarf and is available for purchase on Ravelry, but she also has a very nice YouTube tutorial, and that's what I followed, and it was very easy to follow to make the scarf. It was funny, I was scrolling through her Ravelry page, looking at all of her patterns, and I came across this pattern, and she had made it in the exact same yarn. So I knew it was meant to be. So this is actually one of my Make 9 yarns. If you're not familiar with that, I have a whole video on my Make 9 yarns for the year, if you want to check it out. Basically, 9 yarns from my stash that I am determined to make use of this year. And this is Mandala watercolors in the color Tea Berry. And I had a whole, I think I started with 1,400 yards of this. Another great sale I got took advantage of. And this took about 353 yards with a 6.5 millimeter hook. So that was just over 2 cakes. And I still had plenty of yarn, so I made a matching hat. But before I go into the hat, I just want to mention one thing on this scarf. It's a great pattern and I highly recommend it. It worked up really fast too. When you first start out, you might think that you're going wrong because it looks a little odd when you first start, but trust the pattern, stay with it, and in 3 or 4 rows, you can see that you're fine and it's coming out just exactly as it was supposed to. That is my tip for that pattern. Okay. Okay, the hat. I wanted something that had shells in it, kind of like the scarf. So I went to my trusty BagODay. I had purchased all of her patterns that she has on Etsy. So I went and scrolled through all and then when you get them, they're all mixed up. Patterns for everything you can think of. So I went through and I sorted them when I got it into hats, sweaters, blankets, etc. So I went to the hat section and searched for a beanie that had shells in it. One thing I sometimes do with the BagODay patterns, because I do have all of the PDFs, is I will go to her Etsy page and look at all the pictures, because when you're looking at your files, the icons aren't always pictures, so you don't know what's what. You know, you actually have to open each PDF to see the picture of what it is. I mean, you know from the title what it is, but you don't know what it looks like. So anyway, I will find something on Etsy, and then I'll go to my files and see if I have that pattern, and a lot of times I do. So that would be the way I probably found this one. I'm not sure, but I do that, so I wanted to share that. Anyway, the pattern is called, it's her tutorial number 667 on YouTube. It's just called Crochet Hat / Crochet Beanie. The written pattern is called Crochet Beanie Hat, My Own Devise. And she used what she called a thinner, bulky number 5. This is Tea Berry is a solid, bulky number 5 in my opinion, and it works just fine with this yarn. And I used a 6.5 millimeter hook and about 147 yards for that cute little hat. Again, you seldom go wrong with one of Crystal's patterns. So. I've mentioned this before about this yarn, but I just wanted to again. When I talked about my favorite slippers, I mentioned that this yarn is a roving yarn, and if you can see the There's a lot of little hairs. Well, not a lot, but it's like a big, thick, single strand with a lot of tiny, tiny little hairs coming off of it. Anyway, you have to be careful what hook you use with it. If I try and use a prim hook or even a Susan Bates, notice the lip on these is pretty sharp. The lip is this part that hangs over the neck or the groove area. Both of these, this is my prim and this is the Susan Bates, they have a very sharp lip, and that lip tends to catch those tiny little strands. And if you do that, they are impossible to frog without a pair of scissors. So I went with my boy hook, and if you see the boy hook, that little lip is much more rounded, especially if you see it next to the Susan Bates. Oops, other way. See how much more rounded the boy is than the Susan Bates? So that makes it much easier to use with this roving yarn. So tip if you use mandala watercolors. I am quickly finding that it is beneficial to own several different styles of hooks. I use all of these. I love the prim, but with the roving yarn, you know, I'll use something else. But the prim has the pointiest tip that I have found. Well, I don't have that many kinds. I have these 3 brands, and then I have some no-name hooks in ergonomic and aluminum. I don't have any of the fancy hooks. But anyway, the tip on the prim is great when you're working with baskets or anything with really tight stitches. To get back into those stitches, that pointy end is wonderful. The boy has a much rounder tip, but it's wonderful as far as the ergonomics. You barely have to hold on to this thing because it's so grippy. And then, you know, the aluminum, you can't beat it for sliding on yarn that's a little grippy, like a yarn or a stiff, like a stiff cotton. So anyway, that is days 20 and 21, and I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned. We have 10 days left on this wonderful month of March, and then the challenge is over. Okay, I will see you next time, hopefully.